Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at Drome here in New York City. Singer, songwriter, producer, extraordinaire Sy Smith tonight is performing selections off her brand new and fourth release, The Fast and the Curious, which is produced by Mark de Clive-Lowe. Over the last 12 years, Sy has really done the independent soul scene justice. She's put out some dynamic records. In addition to that, she's collaborated and done a lot of backup vocalist work with the likes of Shaka Khan to Usher to the late Whitney Houston. Tonight we're going to talk about her origins growing up in Washington, D.C. We're going to talk about the brand new CD and collaborating with Mark de Clive-Lowe, as well as where she is musically and what she wants to achieve. Fast and the Curious, this is your fourth release, and you have hooked up with the legendary Mark de Clive-Lowe on this project. It's very futuristic.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is my fourth studio album, and yes, Mark de Clive-Lowe produced the entire project. This is my first time using one producer for an entire project, and I think that lends particular type of consistency on this album that I haven't allowed in some other projects, and it's very nice. I love it.
Why did you choose Mark, and why did you just choose one producer on this project?
You know, Mark and I had teamed up for one song that was Truth, and we liked it so much that we wanted to do another song, and then another song, and we were like, well, let's just do an EP. And then the EP became Fast and Curious. It started developing into this party that I had been hearing in my head, which was like a party in the rainforest on Mars, you know, and I just felt tribal boogie, you know, people, you know, like barely clad and sweaty bodies dancing, and you know, but like a forest on the moon, you know what I mean? And jungle, you know that scene in The Matrix, you know, where they're like, you know, what you call them, Furious. That's not his name. That's his name in school days.
You're talking about
Furious. But you know, Lawrence Fishburne's, yeah. I just felt that kind of thing, and Mark, being a DJ, but first and foremost a jazz pianist, was able to bring that sort of musical complexity that I needed to make that Party in the Rainforest happen, and that's exactly what I wanted.
On this disc, you have a duet with Mr. Rahsaan Patterson, who I've interviewed here on the Pace Report. And there are three 80s songs on this.
That's right.
Remakes.
That's right.
Where are you going with this?
You know, the remakes happened, I think, as a sidebar. They were kind of unintentional. Like, I didn't set out to do three remakes on an album. It was just that they lent themselves so much to what I was doing, which was sort of a reclaiming of dance music as a subgenre of R&B. You know, a lot of times we think of dance music, people think of dance music today, and they just think of it as pop. But dance music was a big part of what soul musicians were doing in the 80s. And, you know, they were kind of obscure, and we didn't really get to hear them a lot. But Billy Ocean's first single was a dance song. You know what I mean? So I wanted to bring that song back out and shed a little light on it. And, you know, the heads know it, but not everybody. So Rahsaan and I had talked about doing this song. He had said he wanted to remake it, and I was like, no, you can't remake it because it's too late, because I already got Mark de Clive-Lowe, and he did the track, and it's too late, and it's mine. But, and which was true. Mark had already started doing the track. Mark had never even heard that song. He's from New Zealand, though, so you gotta give him a pass. But one night, I was in the studio about to record the song, and I tweeted, I'm about to record this song, I'm in the studio, I wonder if my name is too long, that's Rahsaan, I wonder if he will come join me. And he tweeted me right back, where you at, I'm coming. And an hour and some change later, he was there and recording it. I had raised the key up a little bit to go with my voice, and Rahsaan was like, I can't sing that high. That's what I did. Really, Rahsaan? You can't sing that high? Come on, man. His voice has no bounds. And he nailed it. He nailed it.
Born in New York, but you grew up in Washington, D.C. And when you think of D.C., you think of go-go. Tell me how this amalgamation of the futuristic you came from a very funk and very soul-based type of music background.
Well, you know what? Funk was futuristic. You know, when you think about Bootsy and Parliament, they were coming out of spaceships. You know what I mean? So funk was futuristic already. I think it makes sense that I've gone this route. Do you know what I mean? And come out of that culture. That go-go was kind of a subgenre of disco, post-disco dance music. Again, go-go came out of the cabaret scenes in D.C. When DJs started getting hired to do cabarets, the live bands in DC decided, well, we'll just learn all the songs on the radio and play them in a nonstop, fashion, just like DJs do, so there's no gaps in between. That's how that happened, which was kind of forward thinking, you know what I mean? Forward thinking to keep a job. So I think it's no surprise that I came out of that. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad I did, for that matter, because I think it made a better musician out of me, I always lean on my sort of go-go roots.
I understand that a very futuristic lady in the 70s, Miss Patti LaBelle,
Right?
had a very eye-opening experience in your musical career.
Oh my gosh, you know the story. Well, I went to see a play called Your Arms Too Short to Box with God back at the Warner Theater. I must have been about 6 years old. And Patti LaBelle was one of the leads. She was the lead. She was Patti LaBelle. And at the end of the show, we had front row seats. I don't know how my mom made that happen, but we were right in the front and center. And Patti LaBelle came out and was singing the final song and came right to me and stood me up, you know, lifted me up. I felt like I was floating and sang right to me. And it was such a beautiful and eye-opening experience. And I didn't even know back then that I was a singer. I knew I was a musician, but I didn't know I was a singer. But when I got home, I was like, Mommy, I want to do that. I want to do what that lady does. I want to lift people out of their seats, literally, you know, and change their lives. And I actually had the opportunity to tell Miss Patty that story, and she seemed very moved by it. It was really sweet.
I mean, because I look at LaBelle in the 70s, and they merged funk, they merged rock, they merged soul, they did a whole bunch of the transcendental gospels, if you, and I look at where you at right now, and you kind of do a little bit of what LaBelle did in the 70s.
That's so funny that you say that. I mean, yeah, I definitely took cues from LaBelle, Nona Hendrix, Sarah Dash, and Miss Patty. They were futuristic, and I think it was kind of empowering as a young girl growing up to see women in spacesuits or something shiny and really tight, you know, helmets and, you know, that kind of thing. I remember the Emotions had a cover like that too. It was empowering because it wasn't the typical sort of dainty, pretty flowers in your hair thing. It was saying we can be fierce by embracing the future too. You know, it was almost like the subtext of that to me, I think, was embrace the future, embrace technology, which is something that a lot of girls aren't taught to do. You know, so to see that, I think that definitely lent a hand in how I am today, you know, messing around with vocal pedals and not being afraid of keyboards and instruments and that kind of thing.
A lot of people go back with you to your days with the Brand New Heavies. A lot of people go back to your first 2 records. But in between that time, you wrote, co-wrote, and you also did a lot of background singing with a lot of prolific artists. You're looking at me crazy.
No, I'm not.
I mean, this is. I mean, don't be modest now, because I mean, you. Let me go through the list now.
Okay.
I mean, we got Shaka Khan, Michelle, Macy Gray, Usher, Chris Bodie,
Wow.
Brandy, Eric Benet, and God rest her soul, Miss Whitney Houston.
Yes.
I read something that you are going to do a jazz record. I know that is coming. In fact, I know there's going to be an opera record from you because you're very futuristic, and that's coming. Arias with a little Mark de Clive-Lowe in the background.
And that chick from The Fifth Element. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Multipass. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, your background as far as your range of artists it really just, it stretches the whole gamut. I mean, you've gone from Brandy to Shaka. I mean, that's not an easy feat.
It's not. And I've been really blessed to work with so many people, from Genuine to DJ Quick to, like you said, Whitney Houston to Chris Bodie and everybody in between. And a lot of that work was through the musical direction of Ricky Minor, whom I worked with at also at American Idol. And he's kind of been a big brother, mentor to me. What can I say? I've learned from some really dope people. And, you know, and it's not always my particular style of music, but that doesn't take me away from doing the job that needs to be done. At the end of the day, I love being a part of the band. And as a supporting vocalist, that's where I get my joy, is being a part of the band, being one of the instruments, you know, and being able to bring some different colors to a sound, you know, to somebody's sound, you know. And some gigs are, you know, like Michelle and Cello allowed me to really, you know, she liked my color to be really in there, you know. And some gigs, they just want a shade of you, but some gigs want you very saturated, you know what I mean. It's always a learning experience, though. There's never a gig where I don't learn anything. If there is a gig like that, I probably quit. You know what I mean? I probably don't even stay on there long enough to even mention it in my resume. You know what I mean? But like right now, I work with Sheila E. and the Escovedo family, the E family, and I'm constantly in a state of learning. It's like I never graduated from gig U. You know what I mean? I love it. I love it.
What is your take on the passing of Miss Whitney Houston? Because we're about the same age, and Michael and Whitney and Prince and Madonna are like our Elvis Presleys and our Little Richards.
Yeah, that's, I mean, in a real way. That Little Richard comparison really got me just now, because I remember doing a show called Celebrity Duets a few years ago, and he was one of the judges. And one day he came into a rehearsal or something, and judges don't have to come to rehearsal. He came to rehearsal and just sat at the piano and started singing and playing, and the band was just, we were so amazed and taken. I mean, it was like watching a god on stage, you know, because Little Richard is like the king of rock and roll, really. And yes, so Whitney and Michael Jackson and those people are definitely like, you know, icons, more than icons. There's not even a word for that. My heart ached for her family and her daughter, you know, when I got the news. My heart ached for her inner torture that she was going through, especially as generous as she was with her joy, you know. So I hope that people continue to carry on the legacy of that latter part, her joy, because she was very giving with her love of God and spreading that message around. And no matter what your relationship or your religious affiliation is, the joy of God is kind of a universal thing. You know what I mean? It's just joy. God is love, God is light. So that's the joy of life at the end of the day that she spread. And I hope folks continue to do that. And remember her for that, you know.
What does soul music mean to you?
Soul music is everything that encompasses the black experience out of Africa. You know, the whole black diaspora created these sounds when we got to these places that were foreign, these sounds to kind of help us regain our collective memory, you know. And those things were jazz, you know, reggae, gospel, the way that Africans in the diaspora did gospel, and even our interpretations of classical music. Soul music is all of that. I think it was created by people of African ancestry, but that doesn't mean that you have to be of African ancestry to do it. But it's definitely part of that whole experience of being taken away from a place and stripped of your culture and having to recreate a culture from scratch. That's what soul music is. It's a creation of a whole new culture from scratch, just to have something to hang on to, something to remember, and something to pass down.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reported live here at Drome here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank Ms. Sy Smith for her time, as well as the staff and management here at Drome. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column and my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.